Hello, I'm Anna Herforth, and I'd like to tell you about the development of a low-burden diet quality questionnaire for measuring dietary diversity and healthy diets across countries. In making the link between agriculture and food systems and nutrition and health outcomes, diet quality is a key piece on that chain. So a lot of agriculture and food systems interventions or investments would aim to improve food access and have positive diet quality outcomes. It's often difficult to measure diet quality though, particularly if you don't happen to have nutrition expertise or very significant time or funds to figure out what needs to be measured for total diet quality. So low burden tools to measure diet quality were needed that are fast to administer, do not require subject expertise or probing by enumerators, and require a low cognitive burden for respondents. With those things in mind, we set out to develop a diet quality questionnaire that could be used as a way to monitor total diet quality in populations. So this is a tool that was designed to gather information on food groups, which are in turn used to construct indicators of diet quality like diet diversity scores, including the MDDW, and other healthy diet indicators that are newly developed and related to protection of health against diet-related NCDs. This is a 28-item questionnaire, so there are 28 different food groups with yes or no questions asking about consumption of each of those food groups in the previous day or night. So here you can see just a few of the examples of some of the food groups and the example foods and questions that were developed for the Brazil version. And these questions were formulated based on cognitive testing, which is the validation of the way that information is collected. Do respondents consistently understand and respond to the questions in the same way? We were partnering with Gallup to do this cognitive testing, which they do for all survey questions in the Gallup World Poll as a matter of course, but it's not always done in a lot of the survey tools that people may use. So we did some extensive cognitive testing with 82 interviews in 5 different languages, different ethnic immigrant groups, mainly in Sao Paulo, Brazil, and New York City. And we tested different ways of introducing and asking the questions. And then we interviewed respondents about their thought processes while they were answering the questions. So this is what the cognitive testing looked like. Here we can see 2 different versions of the same question. Version A was, yesterday, did you eat broccoli, spinach, chard, kale, or any other green leafy vegetable? And this is actually the way that diet diversity information is often collected currently using this type of question. Version B was, yesterday, did you eat broccoli, spinach, chard, or kale? Omitting the last part where respondents could think of other kinds of foods that might belong in that category. Then after those questions, we talked to them. If they said yes to these questions, we asked them what food they were thinking of. And then we also said to them, what are some other foods that other people might think of when they're answering this question, that foods that might belong together in this category? Our main findings were perhaps not too surprisingly for anyone who's done anthropological research, that people do not always group foods in the same way. Very commonly, we heard cabbage that was mentioned as an other dark green leafy vegetable when asked the question in version A. And so, for example, nuts and seeds, coconut was mentioned as another nut, even though we don't want to group coconut into the nut seed category. Potato was often mentioned as an other vegetable, even though we don't really want it in the vegetable category. We want it grouped in the starchy roots and tubers category. And learning more about how people group foods in other settings, things like sugarcane in some settings might be considered a fruit, which we wouldn't want to be in there also. Secondly, when we ask people to think about other foods in the same category, their ability to do so varied widely. So some people could think of lots and lots of different examples of other foods that would belong in the category. Many people set examples that would largely agree with the way that nutrition researchers might think of these food groups, but other people struggled to think of any examples at all. So it was clear that for different people, well, for everyone, this presented some form of cognitive burden to be thinking of other types of food examples that weren't mentioned. And the ability to do so seemed correlated with educational status. So our conclusion from these main findings is that open-ended questions asking the respondent about other foods in the category that require or allow them to self-categorize foods result in some level of inaccuracy. Could be overestimates due to false positive foods, and results in inconsistent comprehension that might be systematically tied to educational status. So we pursued the sentinel food approach, which is that version B of the question, where we do not leave the question open-ended for people to self-categorize foods because we are not confident in what they're thinking when they answer the question. So our question here was, do sentinel foods capture the information needed? How many people would we miss if we only ask about the most commonly consumed foods? So to answer this question, we analyzed secondary national level survey data from the US and Brazil, and these are the results here. So the answer to this question is yes, it does capture the information we need, and we miss only 3% of people on average who consumed a food that wasn't mentioned.